Well, it's pouring down rain again today, and I would have usually have done a video out on the back porch. A lot of people like to hear the rain on the back porch, but it's kind of chilly today too, so I thought I'd stay inside, stay dry, try to think of a video that has done well in the past, and kind of talk about it a little bit more in detail. So I'm going to talk about the Woodstove a little bit. Hang in there, because as you know, I've recently been trying to prepare folks to live in an off-grid type of fashion in the event of an SHTF. And I think every day you, the viewers, are seeing more and more that we're heading towards that. High inflation, high gas prices, the threat of what's going on around the world. Just yesterday they talked about another invasion of from a large country to a small country, just like the one that we currently have in Europe. This one would be in Asia. I'm not going to mention the names of the countries because YouTube seems to get frustrated with certain things, so it's just easier or safer not to say anything. If there's another war that happens, it quite likely could drag the United States in the middle of it all again, and I think there's a lot of worry. And so what I'm trying to do is not fearmonger, but I'm trying to show you that living this lifestyle off-grid, I really couldn't care less what happens in the world, as long as I can try to maintain my freedom as much as possible. Of course, the trolls out there will always say, oh no, you know that they're going to come and get your property and they're going to send you off to the city. Well, they may, but I can't control that. That's out of my control. I do the best I can, but I can tell you this, that I am going to do a lot better than the city folks do. Told you all about the chickens, and just as yesterday, as a matter of fact, we have well, one of our chickens earlier this spring went broody, and she laid on 2 eggs. Well, laid on several eggs, but 2 of them hatched. And so we took care of them, brought them up here because the other chickens were picking on them. Well, then they went outside, and then we incubated a bunch of them. Well, those 2 chickens, one of them laid an egg yesterday, so we're already starting to increase our production. We always are getting better at what we're doing here. One of the things that is going on in the world is people are really worried about heating cost. The prices are going up. In Europe, I just reported that Europe is really having a heating crisis. People in Germany are buying up all the firewood. There's no more firewood to buy up. And if you can buy it somewhere in Europe, it's like $1,000 per cord, or 1,000 euros, which is about the same amount of money as $1. So in here last year, I think we spent $300 for a cord. I don't know what it is this year, but I'm sure it went up some more. That was for oak. I'm sure you can buy pine a little cheaper. Of course, you're not supposed to burn pine in this. So the other day I was showing you the wood stove and how to maintain it. This one we got, I think, for 450 bucks. It was used. It had only been used one time, and I could definitely tell it was used one time. It was hard to even think that maybe it was used one time. This one would have went for about $800. Now, they don't make this one anymore, so I know somebody's going to ask what kind you got, but you can get different ones. Carolyn just saw one today on Facebook Marketplace. It's a Pleasant Hearth. Pleasant, not earth like Eve, it's Hearth with an H. And she found one, it was $300. I looked it up. Home Depot were selling them for $1,288. Big savings. Now, the guy said it was never used, still in the package, the whole thing. And so you just go out there, check to make sure he's right. This, while I was building the house, wasn't too difficult to install. Obviously, I was a nervous wreck installing it because I had to cut holes in the roof I just put up, my metal roof. This is the first time I ever built a house, so I was a little nervous. So I had to cut a hole in the roof, and I had to cut a hole in the ceiling, but it all worked out. It wasn't too terribly bad. I don't know if I would recommend that anybody just do it. And since I'm not installing it, and I wasn't going to video, and I didn't video the installation in its entirety because I was up on the roof and I would had to video it, and the roof was slick. Since then, I've gotten a GoPro, so if I had to ever do it again, I could put the camera on my forehead and show you how to do it. But I didn't do it last year. It was just too dangerous for me to do it. But there are tons of YouTube videos out there how to install this. But I wanted to kind of go through this a little bit to show you that it's really not that complicated. Now, people are going to disagree with me, and I'm going to get all kinds of hate mail in the comment section. Oh, you did it wrong. But what I did was I followed the instructions in the book almost explicitly. The only thing I didn't do according to the book was this pipe, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. So the wood stove comes as is. It's got the heating tubes in there, the air tubes. Those air tubes is a reed burner. I would imagine all wood stoves come with that now. And so what it does is when the smoke gets up in there, it flashes off that smoke, and so the smoke burns. You can kind of do that with a candle. You blow out a candle and then the smoke will puff up from the candle, and you strike a lighter right under the smoke and it'll poof up. That's the same exact thing that's going on here. So it's very efficient. And so you don't get a lot of smoke going through the chimney causing a lot of creosote, but your wood has to be dry. So you need to dry out like oak. You need to dry it out close to 2 years. And now be careful, because there's a lot of guys out there selling firewood. Oh, I've got seasoned firewood. Well, I don't know what that means, because everyone I've ever checked from a guy who was selling it had wet firewood. They cut it down like last season, so it's not 2 years. But it's got to be below 20%. And you can buy a moisture tester off Amazon. It's a wood moisture tester. It's like this, and I'm going to open it up here. So it has 2 prongs in it. So what you do is you split your wood down the center of the wood, and then you jab that into the wood right in the center where you just split it. That way you can tell if the center of the wood is at 20%. Now the installation, like I said, isn't terribly difficult. So let's say you can find something brand new on Facebook like Carolyn did today, 300 bucks. So let's go with the $300. Otherwise, if you buy new, it's going to be $12.88. Home Depot, I just checked the price. Then you go and buy the chimney, and this gets kind of costly. Depends on what you consider costly. Now, I have single wall chimney going from the stove to the attic box, and I'm going to explain the attic box in a minute. Everything I looked at, YouTube videos, Google, everything said single wall. But when I read the instructions, it said double wall. Now, I understand why they are saying double wall. What a double wall is, it means you have a pipe, just like this one. Then there's a layer of insulation, and then another wrap of metal around the insulation. So you got one wall insulation, another wall. That's double wall. What that does is it holds the heat inside the chimney. And the reason you want double wall is because you want to maintain the heat inside the chimney. If you don't, and it cools off too fast, it will build up on creosote, and creosote will catch fire. 2 years ago, when we had wet wood, we had 2 chimney fires. So don't burn wet wood. People will say, well, just clean it more often. Well, we did. We cleaned it mid-season, and it still caught fire. So wet wood is just a bad idea. But since we have single wall, we thought, well, we'll still get creosote the second year. But we didn't. This thing is spotless clean. This is a lot cheaper than double wall. Then you get up into the attic. This is an attic box here. The attic box goes straight through the ceiling. What you see is just a portion of the attic box, and you have another several inches above. And what that's supposed to do is keep the insulation up there in the attic from getting up against the pipe. We have a huge angle on our roof, and since it's so close to the roof, it didn't have to go up very high. What we could have done is we could have cut the attic box in an angle, so we could have slid this up higher and hid this more. You're supposed to have, I don't know, a couple inches. It's in the instructions. Again, just read the instructions, you'll figure this out. But we decided to do it like this because I thought this looked really nice, and then when Carolyn looked at it, she thought it was really nice. Now, this pipe does not run through here. This pipe connects right into the attic box right here. But on the other side, inside of it, you have another chimney. And on that, you're supposed to have triple wall. That's where the price runs up. So you can get all this at the Tractor Supply store. The attic box, the chimney cap, you know, the thing that keeps the birds and the bird's nest out. I feel like there's something else, but regardless, it comes with everything you need except the triple wall. But you can get that at the Tractor Supply store also. So what you got to do is you got to measure out how much you need. Now that's pretty expensive. Like I said, I think I spent $300 for the whole thing from this point up. The triple wall has to go out your roof, and then it has to go 3 feet above your highest peak on your roof. Now I think it's like 6 feet away, but regardless, our house was so small that I had to go to the 3 feet. So I think I got 4 pieces of triple wall. So the triple wall starts right inside the attic box right here. On the other side, that would be triple wall. It's shiny, it's silver, it's really pretty. It's like a mirror. And then it goes out the roof and all the way up with the chimney cap on it. Now, a lot of people say you got to have a flapper, a vent here. With these new wood stoves, it actually says in the instructions, you will harm your stove if you use that. As a matter of fact, by federal law, if they do it by code, they're not supposed to put it in at all. So if a construction worker came in, or a maintenance guy or whatever, he came in and did it, he would have to follow federal law and not put it in. So I didn't put it in. It was just extra cost. It also makes it harder to clean. You go up to the roof and you put this brush down, you'd be able to get to this spot here and then you'd be done. Now, we also put some cinder blocks, pavers is what they are actually, on the floor. That protects the, you know, from embers coming out and burning everything. Then in the instructions of the stove, it tells you how far to keep your stove away from the wall. We put it on an angle, and it actually describes what to do if you put it at an angle, and I think it's got to be 8 inches back or something. We used this metal stuff that we bought at Home Depot to keep the heat off the wall, but there's spacers here. I can put my hand back there. There's spacers in there, and that keeps air ventilated through that. It's amazing. You put your hand on this, it's actually warm, but you go on the inside, that wall is not hot at all. And then on the back side, you have the air intake that brings air in from the outside. That way it's not sucking air into your house through, you know, cracks in the door or whatever you might have. My mom had asked me if she could use her old chimney pipe to run outside. And the safe answer is no, you shouldn't do it. You're going to get creosote built up, and there's just no instructions on how to do it safely. So if you did it, it would be a pretty big risk. With those old chimneys, you know, with the brick and stuff in it, the brick and mortar, there may be cracks in the mortar, and so you get creosote, it catches on fire, and then that mortar breaks off and catches your house on fire. There is a way, but I don't know how to do it, that you could probably run the triple wall down your chimney. If you didn't want to have to cut a hole through the roof, down the chimney, you could run it through that way. And so you could connect your single wall into the hole in your house and run the triple wall. You can also use fireplace inserts. I don't know if I would recommend a fireplace insert, because a lot of that heat is just going to go out your chimney because you just inserted it into your fireplace. So if you'll click that super thanks button down there, I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to think ahead so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.